Chosen one. This is about someone who couldn't live without you, but lied to your family just to come save you. They painted you as broken, unstable, or lost so they could play hero in a story they invented. But the truth, you never needed saving. They needed access. Right now, that same person is circling your energy like a starving wolf. Same city, same streets, maybe even watching from a distance. Their health, peace, and sanity have all started collapsing since you pulled back. They didn't realize your presence was their only lifeline. Every word they spoke against you was a spell meant to bind, but it's unraveling fast. Divine forces are cutting cords they once used to feed off your energy. That isolation you're feeling, it's not rejection, it's protection, a divine strategy to starve what can't survive without you. It happened right when you were about to hit a major breakthrough. Maybe you'd just left a toxic relationship. Maybe you'd finally cut off a draining friendship. Maybe you'd moved to a new city to start fresh. Whatever it was, you were on the cusp of something significant, and certain people could feel it. That's when this person from your past showed up at a family member's door. Not just any family member, someone with influence over you, someone you had a complicated relationship with. Maybe a parental figure you were trying to reconnect with. Maybe a relative who always wanted to be closer but never really knew you. Someone who had access but not intimacy, power but not understanding. This scorned person walked in carrying a performance. They were energized, confident, almost boastful, but underneath, pure desperation. Because you had done something unforgivable in their eyes. You'd grown beyond their control. You'd awakened beyond their manipulation. You'd become someone who could no longer be drained. And what got said to this family member? An ultimatum disguised as concern. This is their last chance. Coming back around needs to happen. Seeing things straight needs to happen. Otherwise, failure at everything becomes inevitable. I'm moving on, and they'll have to live with the consequences of pushing me away. This family member didn't just listen sympathetically. They saw an opportunity. Because this scorned person was speaking their secret language, they were voicing what this family member had been thinking for years. This child needs control before becoming uncontrollable. Two people, two different relationships with you, but one shared fear, your complete independence, your full awakening, your total freedom from their influence. What you're about to discover is that this wasn't a chance encounter. This was an alliance forming, a spiritual pact being made, and the target was your destiny. Now let's go deeper into why this family member was so eager to help this scorned person get you back. Because the answer reveals something about your entire childhood that you probably sensed but couldn't articulate. You came into this world already awakened. You had the spark before you had language, that inner knowing that chosen ones carry, that connection to truth that exists before understanding. You were born with it fully activated. You didn't need to find yourself, you needed to remember yourself. And the people raising you saw this. They recognized what you were immediately, and they made a calculated decision. They chose to withhold everything that would help you thrive. Think about families that pass down ancestral knowledge, parents who teach their children spiritual protection, grandparents who share wisdom about energy, about herbs, about rituals that shield and strengthen, caretakers who make sure their kids know how to read people, how to spot manipulation, how to survive in both the physical and spiritual realms. You received none of this, and it wasn't neglect, it was strategy. They looked at you, this naturally gifted child with abilities that had taken them decades to try cultivating through practice, and they understood something critical. If we teach this child what we know, they'll become unstoppable. If we give them the tools their lineage left behind, they'll see through every manipulation we attempt. If we show them how to protect their energy, they'll recognize that we've been attacking it since birth, so they kept you ignorant on purpose. They made sure you didn't know how to cook the foods that ground you. They never taught you the prayers that shield you. They withheld knowledge of how to read energy, spot deception, understand what people were really thinking behind their words. They created dependency by design. They manufactured your vulnerability. They fed you to the wolves intentionally, because there was something in you they could never conquer, and if they couldn't control it, they'd make sure you couldn't access it either. This is the foundation you need to understand before we go further. Because when that scorned person showed up crying about how much they loved you and how worried they were, this family member didn't just see a heartbroken ex. They saw a co-conspirator, someone who shared their mission, someone who could help them finish what they started when you were too young to fight back. So right there in that conversation, an unspoken agreement formed. The scorned person would handle the physical realm. They'd play the victim in your social circles. They'd tell everyone how much they loved you, how concerned they were, how you'd changed and needed to come back to yourself. They'd manufacture encounters, reach out through mutual friends, craft a whole narrative where the hero role belonged to them and you were the lost soul needing salvation. Meanwhile, this family member would handle the spiritual warfare. They'd use whatever craft they practiced, whatever magic they'd learned and kept from you, whatever ancestral power they'd deliberately not passed down, and they'd direct all of it toward one goal, creating blocks in your path, slowing your awakening, making independence feel impossible and isolation feel unbearable. The scorned person told this family member things about you that weren't true. They painted a picture of someone spiraling, someone making terrible decisions, someone who needed intervention. They knew exactly which buttons to push, because intimate study of you had happened during your time together. Your insecurities were mapped. What would make you look unstable to someone who didn't really know you was calculated perfectly, and this family member wanted to believe it. They wanted to believe you were falling apart without their control. They wanted evidence that surviving independence wasn't possible for you. So when this person showed up with stories about your supposed chaos, your alleged poor choices, your imagined downfall, they drank it in like medicine that confirmed their diagnosis. If this resonates with your inner knowing, hype this video to help fellow chosen ones find their way here. This family member knew you were thriving. Deep down they could feel your energy strengthening with distance. They could sense your clarity returning. They could see evidence of your growth even from afar. But they chose to believe the lies instead because the truth threatened everything their identity had been built around. They sold it to everyone else as protection. We're just trying to help them. They're too fragile for this harsh world. They're going to get destroyed out there. They need us. But what was really happening was an attempt to abort your destiny. The destiny that had been creating terror in them since the day you were born, showing signs of spiritual awareness. The scorned person on their end was telling people you'd become cold, distant, changed. They positioned themselves as the loyal one who stuck around despite your transformation into someone unrecognizable. They conveniently left out the part where your transformation was healing, where your distance was boundaries, where your change was evolution away from toxicity, What makes this even more twisted is how your family member began vouching for this person to other relatives. They made phone calls, they sent messages, they built a coalition of people who would all agree that you needed to be brought back into the fold. They created a chorus of voices that would make you feel like the problem, like the one who was wrong, like the person who needed fixing. You weren't just fighting against two people, you were fighting against an entire constructed narrative designed to make you doubt your own perception, to make you question whether your growth was actually self-destruction, to make you wonder if freedom was just loneliness in disguise. Now here's what they didn't account for. Here's the variable they couldn't control no matter how perfectly they planned. You left anyway. Despite every block they created, every manipulation they attempted, every spiritual attack they launched disguised as family concern, you walked away. You chose yourself. You chose truth over comfort. You chose freedom over the familiar cage of dysfunction. And something immediate and undeniable happened. You flourished. Your energy restored itself rapidly. Your health improved dramatically. Your mind cleared like fog burning off in sunlight. Opportunities appeared out of nowhere. Money started flowing. Relationships started making sense. The chronic exhaustion lifted. The confusion evaporated. The self-doubt dissolved. The proof was mathematical. With them you withered. Without them you thrived. Simple, undeniable, impossible to explain away. And people noticed. The friends who might have believed the scorned person's sob story at first, they couldn't unsee what became obvious. This person claimed you'd fail without them, but you were succeeding beyond anything you'd accomplished while together. They said you needed them to survive, but you were healthier and happier than anyone had seen you in years. They painted themselves as your savior, but you clearly didn't need saving. Even more telling, the scorned person's life started visibly deteriorating. The business they'd built while draining your energy started failing. The health they'd maintained by feeding off your vitality started declining. The social standing they'd crafted using your reflected light started crumbling. And people who'd known them during your relationship started connecting dots they'd previously missed. Wait, they seemed so much more alive when they were together. Funny how everything's falling apart for them now. Maybe the one who needed saving all along was right in front of us. The narrative collapsed, and with it, their social credibility crumbled. This is when the exile began, not because they wanted distance, but because they had to create the appearance of moving on while staying as close to you as physically possible for their survival. This exiled person's spiritual protection is completely gone, demolished, non-existent. Imagine a roofless attic in the middle of a mountain range during a winter storm. That's the equivalent of their spiritual defense right now. Every negative energy can reach them. Every karmic consequence is landing. Every debt they accumulated through years of manipulation and deception is coming due all at once. Complete collapse should have happened already. Total unraveling should be complete, but it's not. They're still functioning, still surviving, still managing to avoid total destruction. Why? Because they found a feeding mechanism you didn't know existed. They're feeding off the people around you. Here's how it works, and pay close attention because this is crucial. Every person in your life who has any connection to you, anyone who feels anything toward you, especially those who hide what they feel, they create gaps, shadows, spaces between what they feel and what they express. The co-worker who's attracted to your energy but won't admit it. The friend who wants something from you but hides their agenda. The acquaintance who likes you but plays it cool. The family member who respects you but pretends indifference. In that gap between what gets felt and what gets expressed, between what gets wanted and what gets admitted, residual energy exists, unexpressed emotion, unacknowledged desire. And that's what this exiled parasite feeds on. They can't digest light. They can't consume the direct energy of truth and alignment, but they can survive on shadows, on scraps, on the leftover energy created when people around you operate from deception about their true feelings. This is why staying physically close to you matters to them. It's not about running into you directly. It's about being close enough to the people in your orbit that they can sense and siphon these energy gaps. Every person who interacts with you and then carries unexpressed feelings away from that interaction becomes a potential meal for them. Think about it. Someone talks to you, feels drawn to your energy, but denies that attraction to themselves. They walk away with that unresolved feeling buzzing in their system. That's food for the parasite. Someone works with you, benefits from your ideas, but doesn't acknowledge your contribution. That unexpressed gratitude, mixed with guilt, creates a shadow. That's sustenance. This is why spiritual attacks on chosen ones rarely hit you directly. They hit the people in your orbit instead. This is why God sometimes removes you from entire friend groups, not to isolate you, but to protect those people from becoming unwitting batteries for your enemies. And this is why two chosen ones together are impossible to feed on, because chosen ones operate from alignment, from truth, from direct honest communication. No gap exists, no shadow forms, no unexpressed agenda creating leftover energy to consume. You've probably felt this without understanding what you were sensing. That strange awareness that someone from your past seems to know things about your current life without you telling them. That eerie feeling of being watched even when you can't see anyone watching. That inexplicable sense that your energy is being tracked somehow. You weren't paranoid. You were picking up on the energetic surveillance happening through the people around you. Every conversation you have creates ripples in the spiritual realm, and this exiled person has become so desperate, so attuned to finding your energy signature, that sensing these ripples from a distance has become their survival skill. The one who saw that scorned person crying at their door and thought, perfect someone else who wants to stop this child from rising. They're drowning right now, drowning in shame so deep they can't find the bottom, because every single thing they tried to do is backfiring. Every spell they cast, every prayer they twisted, every ritual they performed against you, all of it is coming back multiplied, amplified, returned to sender with interest. Their spiritual protection is crumbling like a sandcastle in a tsunami. The influence they once wielded in the family, evaporating. The people they once manipulated, waking up. The respect they once commanded, dissolving faster than they can shore it up. And there's probably someone close to them scrambling to cover it up. A partner, another parental figure, an enabler who's been making excuses for years. This person is working overtime trying to defend the indefensible. They were just worried about you. They meant well. You're being too harsh. You're too sensitive. Can't you see they love you? But even that narrative is failing, because you can't defend someone who practiced spiritual warfare against a chosen one while expecting the consequences to politely stay hidden. What's fascinating is how this family member is trying to rewrite history now. They're telling people they always supported you. They're claiming they never doubted your path. They're pretending the conversation with the scorned person never occurred, or if it did, they were just being polite and never actually intended to help manipulate you back into bondage. But the spiritual realm doesn't care about revised narratives. It doesn't accept retroactive good intentions. It operates on what was actually done, what energy was actually directed, what harm was actually intended. I must interrupt this transmission for just a moment. Are you really chosen? Prove it. It's easy to watch videos about chosen ones. It's another thing to put yourself to the test. If you're still here, that means something. But talk is cheap. Real chosen ones take action. That's why I built Destiny Engine. It generates personalized sequences that help you rewire betrayal into transcendence, turn isolation into sacred power, and transform their downfall into your rise. We are using the Dark Elite's own weapons against them, taking their declassified consciousness technology that programmed competition and scarcity and repurposing it to serve divine justice. The beauty is you don't even have to lift a finger. You put on the headphones, press play, and watch your enemies choke on the rope their own lies created. If you're done consuming and ready to prove you're chosen, start your Destiny Engine for $1 today. Join the Obsidian Inner Order live checks and watch divine justice accelerate in your life. Link in the description. This family member knows exactly what they did. They know who they came against. They know the sacred agreements they violated. They know the ancestral trust they betrayed. And now they're watching their entire foundation crack beneath their feet, while trying to maintain the appearance that everything is fine. Other family members are starting to ask questions too. They're noticing the inconsistencies in the stories that were told about you. They're wondering why you're doing so well if you were supposedly falling apart. They're starting to recognize that maybe the problem wasn't you at all. Maybe the problem was the people who kept insisting you were the problem. It's not fine, it's catastrophic, and it's about to get much worse. Let's pause and really absorb why ancestral knowledge was kept from you. Because understanding this changes everything about how you see your past and your present power. If you had known what they knew from childhood, you would have been untouchable. You would have been recognizing energy vampirism in real time. You would have been spotting spiritual attacks before they landed. You would have been shielding yourself automatically. You would have been seeing through every manipulation attempt. They needed you to be vulnerable. They needed you to be confused. They needed you to be asking yourself, why is my life so hard? Why can't I get ahead? Why am I always exhausted? Those weren't rhetorical questions. Those were symptoms. Symptoms of systematic energy theft. Symptoms of spiritual attack, disguised as normal family dysfunction. Symptoms of someone actively draining your life force while convincing you that being weak or broken or not trying hard enough was the problem. The withholding wasn't just about keeping you weak. It was about preventing you from recognizing them for what they truly were. Because if you'd had the spiritual education you deserved, you would have looked at this family member and immediately identified them as a practitioner working against you. You would have sensed the scorned person's energetic attachment before they could establish it. The withholding was designed to keep you blind to the very people who were blinding you. Think about how genius and how evil that is simultaneously. They kept you from learning the language that would let you name what was happening to you. They denied you the framework that would help you understand your own experience. They made sure you'd interpret spiritual attack as personal failure. You were taught to blame yourself for symptoms of being attacked. You were conditioned to see exhaustion from being drained as evidence of your weakness. You were trained to interpret the fog they created around you as your own confusion. Even without the training, you still knew. Underneath all the gaslighting, beneath all the manipulation, beyond all the conditioning, you knew something was wrong. You knew these relationships were toxic. You knew you had to leave. You knew your survival depended on getting out. That's the spark they could never extinguish. That's the inner compass they could never corrupt. That's the aspect of you that came here already connected to Source, already aligned with truth, already aware of your mission even without language for it. And that spark is about to become a wildfire, which brings us to now, to this exact moment, to this season where you're feeling pulled to withdraw, pulled into solitude, pulled away from people who normally have access to you. Listen to me carefully. This is not depression. This is not you being antisocial or giving up on people. This is not weakness or fear or avoidance. This is divine strategy. You're being isolated on purpose, by forces that understand spiritual warfare better than any human practitioner, because that exiled parasite needs to be completely starved. Not just reduced, not just weakened, completely cut off from every source of sustenance. You've been keeping someone alive without knowing it. Every interaction you have with people who harbor hidden feelings, hidden agendas, hidden deceptions about you, creates the scraps this parasite survives on. And the divine realm is saying, not one more day, not one more meal, not one more moment of your life force extending someone else's existence. So you're being pulled into isolation, into a season where invitations feel wrong, where friendships suddenly feel exhausting, where social situations that used to feel fine now feel like energy traps. You might notice you're declining offers you would have accepted before. You might find yourself canceling plans you would have honored previously. You might feel like you're becoming someone you don't recognize, someone more withdrawn, someone more selective. Good. That's not you losing yourself. That's you finding yourself. That's your system recognizing threats your conscious mind hasn't fully processed yet. That's your spiritual immunity, activating and creating distance between you and anyone who could become a feeding conduit for your enemies. Your body knows before your mind catches up. Your energy recognizes parasitic patterns before your logic can articulate why someone feels off. Your spirit senses the gaps in people around you that could be exploited, and it's pulling you back to safety. Trust this withdrawal. Trust this season of selective silence. Trust this period where you're saying no more than yes. Trust this phase where solitude feels safer than socializing. Your spirit is protecting you from becoming a power source for someone who's spiritually bankrupt. This is your protection. This is your preparation. Because what's about to happen to this exiled person isn't going to be quiet. It's not going to be private. It's not going to be something they can recover from. The spiritual realm keeps showing the same vision. A tower, tall, seemingly stable, and then complete collapse. Sudden, violent, public, undeniable. This person is heading toward a crash that everyone will witness. Something so chaotic, so explosive, so utterly devastating that it cannot be explained away, covered up, or dismissed as bad luck. All the lies they told about you will be exposed. All the manipulation they perfected will backfire spectacularly. All the energy they stole will be violently reclaimed by universal law. But here's what makes this tower moment different from regular consequences. This isn't just about them facing their karma. This is about them being made into an example, a warning, a testimony to what happens when you drain a chosen one's life force and then manipulate their family into helping you maintain access. The collapse is going to be specific. It's going to expose the exact mechanisms they used. The lies they told to your family member will come to light in ways that make everyone who believed them feel betrayed. The ways they portrayed you as unstable will be revealed as projection of their own unraveling. The image they crafted of themselves as your concerned savior will shatter so completely that people will question how they ever believed it, and your family member, they're going to have to watch. They're going to see in real time what manifests when you lend your spiritual power to someone attacking a chosen one. They're going to understand why every tradition warns against using gifts to harm those you're meant to protect. The universe doesn't negotiate with parasites. Payment plans for karmic debt don't exist. Systematic starvation happens, and then public examples get made so others learn before attempting similar attacks. The tower doesn't just fall, it implodes from the foundation up. Everything built on lies, on stolen energy, on manipulated narratives, it all comes crashing down at once, and the wreckage will be so complete that rebuilding becomes impossible, starting over becomes impossible, returning to any semblance of the life they crafted while draining you becomes permanently out of reach. And where are you while all this unfolds? You're in isolation, protected, hidden, removed from the destruction zone. You're not going to watch this collapse happen. You're not going to see the tower fall in real time. You're not going to witness the public unraveling. Why? Because you've already paid your dues. You've already survived the attacks. You've already walked through the valley of confusion and manipulation and systematic energy theft. You don't need to watch their judgment land. You don't need closure from watching them fall. You don't need vindication from seeing consequences play out. Your job right now is simpler and more powerful than spectating someone else's destruction. Stay in isolation. Honor this withdrawal. Trust that what's happening in the spiritual realm is more devastating to your enemies than anything you could orchestrate yourself. Understand that your absence is the weapon. Your disconnection is the killing blow. Your refusal to feed them even scraps is what's bringing the tower down. Don't break isolation out of curiosity. Don't reach out to people out of boredom. Don't let guilt or sympathy or the desire for answers pull you back into proximity with energies being systematically dismantled. Because if you break isolation too early, you extend their survival. You give them one more meal, one more day, one more chance to siphon what was never theirs to begin with. The scorned person might make desperate attempts to break through your isolation. They might create emergencies that require your attention. They might use mutual connections to send messages about how much they've changed, how much they've grown, how they finally understand what they did wrong. Don't bite. These are the death throes of a parasite losing its host. These are calculated moves designed to create even the smallest gap in your defenses. Even responding to reject them creates an energetic opening. Even acknowledging their existence feeds them. Your power right now is in your complete disengagement. Your strength is in your absolute disconnection. Your victory is in your total absence from their reality. You might hear through the grapevine about struggles they're having, financial collapse, health crises, relationship implosions, social exile becoming more apparent, and you might feel a pull toward sympathy, toward checking in, toward offering help. Resist that pull. That's not compassion calling you. That's the final hook attempting to reel you back in. That's the last gasp of manipulation trying to re-establish even the thinnest connection. Your absence is what's creating the conditions for this person to finally face what living off stolen energy leads to. But understand something crucial. This isolation isn't forever. This withdrawal isn't your permanent state. This is a season, a necessary, powerful, strategic season. You're being equipped right now with knowledge most people will never access. You're learning about spiritual warfare at levels that require lived experience to understand. You're developing discernment that will make you nearly impossible to deceive going forward. When you emerge from this isolation, you won't be the same person who entered it. You'll be sharper, stronger, clearer, more aligned with your purpose than ever before. You'll be recognizing predators before they finish their opening line. You'll be spotting energy vampires before they get within feeding range. You'll be sensing spiritual attacks before they fully form. You'll also have something more valuable than protection. You'll have understanding. You'll know exactly how parasitic attachments work, because you watched one starve in real time. You'll understand how family members can be weaponized against you, because you saw it happen and survived it. You'll recognize the pattern of someone lying to your loved ones to gain access to you, because you lived through the entire cycle, the exiled person will become a footnote in your story. A cautionary tale you might tell others about what happens when parasites lose their host. The family member will become a distant memory, a lesson about why blood doesn't guarantee loyalty and why some bridges should stay burned. But more importantly, you're becoming proof that you can survive spiritual warfare from the people closest to you, proof that you can thrive after cutting off everyone who was feeding off you, proof that your light doesn't dim when you remove the people who were dimming it while claiming to reflect it. And you're about to step into a version of your life so powerful, so aligned, so completely free from parasitic attachments that everyone who tried to stop you will finally understand what they were really fighting against, not just you. The divine assignment you carry, the destiny you were born to fulfill, the empire you're about to build on the ashes of every cage they tried to keep you in. This is your moment, chosen one, not your moment of waiting for justice, your moment of recognizing you're in the middle of a divine military operation designed specifically to eliminate threats to your rise. The tower is falling right now. The exile is becoming permanent right now. The parasite is starving right now. And you, safely held in strategic isolation, you're being prepared for an emergence so powerful it will justify every moment of withdrawal you endured to get there. Because here's what they never understood about chosen ones. We don't just survive attacks, we metabolize them. We don't just endure manipulation, we study it and become immune. We don't just escape toxic systems, we dismantle them from the inside out, just by choosing ourselves. Every moment they spent trying to drain you, you were learning their techniques. Every lie they told your family, you were mapping their strategy. Every spiritual attack they launched, you were building antibodies that make you untouchable to that frequency of assault. They believed they were creating dependency. The reality was they were training you to recognize dependency tactics. They believed they were making you weak through withholding. The reality was they were showing you exactly what to teach yourself. They believed they were preventing your rise. The reality was they were documenting every obstacle you'd eventually overcome and every weapon formed against you that wouldn't prosper. Your emergence isn't just about you stepping into power. It's about you stepping into power while carrying intelligence about how the enemy operates. You know their playbook now. You've seen behind the curtain. You understand the machinery of manipulation because you've been inside it and escaped. When you finally step back into the world, you'll move differently. You'll speak differently. You'll choose differently. The people you allow into your inner circle will be vetted through layers of discernment most people don't even know exist. The opportunities you pursue will be aligned with purpose most people spend lifetimes searching for. The boundaries you set will be unshakable because you know exactly what happens when boundaries get compromised. You're not emerging as someone who survived. You're emerging as someone who conquered, not just your external enemies, but the internal doubts they planted in you to keep you small. You're walking out of this isolation as living proof that chosen ones don't just endure spiritual warfare. We master it, we alchemize it, we transform every attack into armor and every obstacle into advantage. Stay strong, stay isolated, stay ready. Your empire is being cleared of enemies while you rest. Your territory is being secured while you recover. Your throne is being prepared while you heal. And when you emerge, when this season completes, when the isolation lifts and you step back into the world, you'll be doing it with a level of power, protection, and purpose that makes everyone who tried to stop you realize they weren't fighting you. They were fighting God's plan. They were fighting divine destiny. They were fighting forces that don't lose, don't negotiate, and don't leave survivors among those who attack chosen ones. You were never the victim in this story. You were always the threat they couldn't neutralize, the light they couldn't dim, the destiny they couldn't abort. And soon, very soon, everyone will see it. Not because you'll need to prove anything, but because your rise will be so undeniable, so unstoppable, so divinely orchestrated, that it will serve as permanent testimony to what happens when you bet against a chosen one, the person who couldn't live without you. They're about to discover that trying to survive off someone else's light eventually leads to complete darkness. The family member who betrayed you, They're about to learn that weaponizing ancestral gifts against your own bloodline carries consequences that span generations. And you're about to show the world what a chosen one looks like when they finally stop carrying parasites and start building empires. Stay in your isolation. Your emergence is coming, and it's going to be legendary.